Good evening and welcome to the High Performance Show with your host, Kamir Arajun, where we showcase ordinary South Africans under 30 living extraordinary lives. Today's special guest is a man with many talents. Meet Johan Griesel, an avid outdoorsman who has had an epic opportunity of representing South Africa at endurance horse riding in Russia. But further to this, Johan is extremely driven in his academic pursuits as well as his leadership interests. And having known him during my student days, witnessed Johan grow from strength to strength as a leader, having represented the Stellenbosch University Economic and Management Sciences Faculty's Leadership Board as the Vice Chair, as well as being the Vice Chairman of the Stellenbosch University Academic Affairs Council, as well as being a representative on the University Council Advisory Board. All these achievements led to him being awarded the Rectors Award for Leadership, which is the highest award that any student can get in the university for their contributions to leadership. Post Johan's studies, which was his Bachelor's of Accounting and Bachelor's of Honours in Accounting, Johan has gone on to serve his articles at one of South Africa's leading insurance firms, where he completed both his Board 1 and 2 Chartered Accounting exams, as well as his CFA Level 1 exam in the top 10% of candidates on his first time writing. Later this year, Johan will qualify as a Chartered Accountant and will continue to pursue his passion of the CFA designation. Johan, welcome to our show and thank you for your time.
Thanks, Kamir. Thanks for the intro.
You've had an amazing experience. And I mean, since I've known you since varsity, you've always been an extremely driven person, a man with massive ambition and a clear goal for himself. Please tell me, how did your journey all begin? How did you get into this endurance horse riding and then go on this journey that led you to Stellenbosch, where you embarked on amazing leadership journeys?
Yeah, so I think, a good way to start it off is, my perspective is that really every day you wake up is an opportunity to, to do something for someone. I believe life has only two types of persons. You're either a taker or you're a giver. And every day you have to make that choice, whether either you take or either you give. And that's really what it comes down to. But my journey started, horse riding was my main sport when I was at school. And I guess that's really where I learned most of my life lessons, from, winning maybe a few trophies, but also the failures just as much. And I think early on in my life, I kind of knew what I was really good at. And so three things: what I was really good at, what was my passion, what I enjoyed, but also what the world needed.
Right.
Because, whatever you decide to do in life, there has to be a need for it. And I think I was privileged enough to, early on figure that out. And I think that's really led me on this path of, where I am today. Still pretty young, still learning every single day. But just enjoying life, for every day what it is. Such an opportunity to be alive.
And you mentioned that you were lucky that you found your purpose early on in life, and the horse riding taught you so much about yourself. Being a leader and being in the position that you were in, you had to obviously demonstrate leadership ability using your values and aligning things in terms of your values to make decisions. And obviously you were guided in those spaces. So I would definitely like to know what values you live by and how did it influence your decision making? Did you align it? And just to get an understanding of the values behind the man that led you towards these positions to, as you said, serving others and giving something back.
So I think I'll answer that question by rather not being generic. I think everyone always says definitely trust. Trust is the number one value to have. But I think maybe let me rather tell a story behind it. I think I probably grew up as quite a shy person, maybe sometimes still is. Actually, my girlfriend and I, we recently joined a dance club. You know, and I found that really interesting. It's something way outside of my comfort zone. But you know, that's what I enjoy. But in terms of leadership, Kamir, you know, I had to, at a stage in my life, really learn how to influence people. And I really think that is what leadership comes down to, is how to arrange people and motivate people, especially around a common goal. And where the values part comes in is that goal you are leading people towards. Is it a worthwhile goal? You know, I once read this good quote which said, there's a big difference between management and leadership, where management is really climbing the ladder to the top as fast as possible, where leadership is your ladder against the right wall. And you know, for me personally, I'm a religious person, so a Christian, and I think much of the values I was brought up with really stems from what I was taught as a kid, and I think it stood me in good stead. And you know, I've also had the privilege to have people that work with me to achieve common goals who had similar values, and I think that's an important thing, is the people you choose to spend your time with in life needs to have the same kind of values than you do. Of course, you know, if you don't, it's just going to be difficult to reach a common goal. So I think, yeah, those are the big things. But then I think the other one is, especially in today's climate, is you really need to be authentic, and to who you are. And I think that's you know, when we met at university, that's what I enjoyed about you the most, is you know, we connected on this authentic
Yes.
kind of level. Both of you and I, we are outdoor persons. We ran together. We did we not do the gun run together at some stage at university?
Yes, we did in 2018.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
gun run. Yes. For the viewers who are not aware, it's from Greenpoint Stadium in Cape Town down towards Camps Bay, and then you sort of turn just before you go into Camps Bay and then back. So it's sort of like a 10.5K out and back along the Ocean Drive. So it's absolutely amazing. Great atmosphere and great vibe.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think you know, like people are drawn towards people that are authentic. And my mentor and I, we had this conversation earlier this week, where we actually spoke about mentorship in life. And I think we got to the conclusion is that you know, one should always sort of have a role model or have a mentor, but the truth of the matter is everyone walks a different path in life. And you can easily look at someone who's very successful, or look at, you know, this person under 30 years old and look what he or she has achieved, and wanting to achieve exactly the same. But the real fact of the matter is that everyone matures at different stages. Everyone is born with different talents, and everyone has a different path that they should follow in life. And I think if you stay true to that, you will do good. Yeah.
You've just spoken so much wisdom. I've really enjoyed it, because you know, like you said, it's authentic leadership. Great leadership comes from you being authentic, and you know, you're authentic if you have the self-confidence to follow your own purpose and passion in life. Like you said, you know, you mentioned your own path, and it's a common theme amongst all the high performers. The reason they are high performers is because they're not living a generic life, and they all are, you know, doing their own pursuit, and like you said, found their innate talents and passions, and sort of found a way to develop it and chase it relentlessly. And I really did resonate with your point as well, where you spoke about your mentors and the conversation you had, because I think nowadays, like you said, I'm also of the same belief though, of having a mentor or multiple mentors in my life for various facets. Right? It's something I do live by, and I make sure I always touch base with them and run through, you know, a bit of perspective. But you said something very brilliant. Everyone's on their own path. and everyone's got a different journey to follow. And I think a lot of these days, a lot of people try and follow a generic mold, look, and try and copy a look or a fashion or a style or a way of living that may not necessarily be in touch with who they really are. And I think that's where people then start struggling, asking questions about their identity, what's their purpose, why are they doing it? And then it just has a lot of other negative spin-offs by not being authentic. I think my outlook, especially on that topic, is to have multiple mentors and then take the best bits from each of them that resonate with yourself and that apply to you, because then you go forward and you have the different, levels and perspectives, but then you choose the parts that work for you on your specific set of circumstances.
100%, Kamir. I think to add to that, maybe something that helped me learn that lesson early on was in the horse riding community, there's usually this saying that the best horse is the one you've got. And, I think it's exactly the same for you as a person as well. Take MasterChef, for instance, those of the listeners that like watching MasterChef. I think that it really resonates with what life is really about. The candidates in that show, they basically get a certain amount of ingredients. No one gets the same, and they are put to the task to cook the best meal with whatever that was put on their plate for that day. They're not graded on which dish is actually tastes the the best, but they really grade people on what did you do with the ingredients you got. And I think, just to add to that, I think really work on what you're good at. And again, what's your passion? Because, many times you hear people say, I'm so good at this one thing, but I don't really enjoy it. And I was in similar situations in my life as well. But you really need to find that thing you're good at and that you love doing, but also that the world needs.
Exactly. It's sort of like apart from the book Good to Great by Jim Collins, where he said, find something you're extremely passionate about, and then try and see if you can be the best at that, and see if you can take that one step further and generate an income from that specific set of skills and add value, towards the wider community. And if you can do that, adding value by doing something that you love, which makes you inherently, the best in the business, then you've obviously found your golden egg, and as he calls it, your hedgehog concept. I really do resonate with that. And Johan, I mean, I think you've got an exceptional wisdom and insight gained from years of actively looking for your purpose and I think living an authentic lifestyle, which, as you mentioned, was from your horse riding, and then I think you've as you said, you built up into your different leadership roles, taking those lessons and your self-awareness with you. So now that we know who the man is and what he stands for, how did your time in these various leadership roles affect your outlook on life? What lessons did you learn from there about leadership that you could share with us?
Sure, that's a loaded question. Things I've learned from out these various roles, and I think each different position I was in taught me different things. But if I have to think back, what the main learnings were, I think firstly, working with people is difficult. And whenever in your life you do, whenever you are in a leadership position, and all of us someday in some way or form will be in a leadership position, you need to have courage. And I think, for those of us personally, I was born in sort of like to be a people pleaser, in a way, and which is not always a good thing, where you want to keep everyone happy, you want to attend to every single person's need. And I think what I learned from being in those roles, because you know, a lot of it, you know, was student politics, and most of the time you sort of dealt with issues where it was majority versus minority. And that was, you know, sometimes you have to listen to minority, sometimes you have to listen to majority. But, you know, what it really taught me was that you need to also make decisions. You can't always sit on the fence. And I think, and that takes courage. You know, many times I was in position or in situations where the situation really demanded action. It had to be fast, and it had to be wise. And it wasn't necessarily always the decision that everyone was going to be happy with. And I think that's really the part that you should know you will be confronted whenever you are in a position like that, is you will be confronted with adversity, with people of, you know, with different opinions than yours. But I think if you have the right values and, you know, if you listen to yourself, and if you just sometimes take a step back and think more broadly about something, you usually get or come to a better conclusion. And I think what also, you know, you need to ask yourself whenever you make an important decision that involves some people other than yourself, is if this decision had to be published in a newspaper tomorrow, what would the headline read? You know, what would people write about? And I think once you've answered that question, you probably know what you have to do. And truth be told, you will get it wrong. I think a part of how I was able to become, sort of in your words, be wise at this age, is really through failures. And I think I've had a lot of those along the way. Most people that become successful, you know, usually you hear about all the successful stories and, you know, they've achieved this and that, but you know, you very scarcely hear about their failures. And I think for me, most of my learnings actually came from the failures, not from the successes. And I think if you constantly seek out new things that challenge you, things outside of your comfort zone, you will fail, but you will learn. And I think the earlier you can do that in life, the more failures you will have and the more learning opportunities there will be for you to learn from that. Obviously, you can learn from other people's failures as well, but I can tell you from first-hand experience, there's nothing better than actually failing yourself at something, because that you carry with for the rest of your life. And if ever you get into a similar situation, you will, you know, it's almost like muscle memory, where your learnings just comes back in that moment.
Right. No, I'm with you 100%. I mean, there's that saying that, you know, the famous quote that always says, experience is the best teacher. You know, you can always learn from the mistakes of other people. And history shows us that, you know, history shows us all the mistakes, the successes and the failures that people who have come before us have made. But why is it then that people make the same mistake again in the current lifetime? You know, it's normally experience that is the best teacher and gives people perspective and how they'll go forward and live their life. You've mentioned some really amazing points in your response, especially where you spoke about the failure and repeating it often. I'm also a huge fan or a huge believer in living that philosophy and trying new things, pushing past my comfort zone, right? And going past that initial fear. As you mentioned, you have to have courage when you're chasing your goals, because you're going to have a lot of uncertain moments where you're questioning yourself, you're questioning your ability, you're questioning the unknown because you haven't been there. But that's when, you know, you have to have faith in yourself and just believe that you're either going to live or you're going to learn. And, you know, whether it's seen as a failure or a success, the failure will then give you more and more skills and experience to go forward and help you later on in life, right? Because that's the only way you grow. That's how you grow, by trying something new, failing at it, trying it again, and improving.
And I think you're spot on. I think one of the purposes of life is self-improvement. You know, it's it's really not about the outcome, I feel, in life. It's really about the process, the every single day process you go through. And I think if you get the process right, you will become a better you at the end of the day. And what is that else than being successful? Camille, the other thing which I just thought about, and I think which is also especially important, is really having diversity around yourself. When throughout all times of life, and diversity not only in terms of gender or it's diversity of thought. Take you and I, for instance, we've been friends for a long time, and we're from vastly different backgrounds.
Yeah.
But the thing is, you don't know what you don't know, and we all have biases, and you might be making decisions in terms of your life which you think is right for you and for others. But if you don't have a different perspective from someone else, and if you don't actively listen to what smart people and actually any type of people around you say, it's not a good thing. So you really need to be open towards different interpretations of answers or of questions. And I think having a diverse group of people around you helps a lot. That you mentioned you have more than one mentor. I think maybe you could attest to the fact that each mentor thinks differently. Each mentor gives different advice, some good, some bad. And I think having that diversity around you and being able to pick from the best, I think that's what also will help you excel in the future.
100%. You are absolutely spot on. I mean, like I said, you really get these questions and you really get the essence of life, and you really understand your experiences, Johan. I mean, it's absolutely fantastic just hearing your responses, how in-depth and how well thought out they are. I mean, all the questions I'm asking you are on the spot based on your responses and your story here. And the level of insight I find absolutely, phenomenal. In fact, so much so that you mentioned there that life is a continuous process of growth and pushing yourself. So I'd like to ask you, based on all your experiences as a leader in those student roles, how have you taken it and implemented it in your professional capacity now as an aspiring chartered accountant, and as you go forward into your professional career?
Yeah, so I think the first thing of that, you have to look at life again more broadly. The way life works is you start at the bottom and then you reach the top, and then you start at the bottom again, and then you work your way to the top again. You start in school, then you work your way to matric. You're the main guy in the room. Then you get to varsity. You start as a first year or as a junior, and you work your way up, like you said, achieve various type of things, and then you hit the professional world. And let me tell you, that's the real world. I think what school and university and all these different types of experiences really do is it prepares you for what comes after. And I think that's what it really helped me with. It really helped me with seeing. I was fortunate to be in a university like Stellenbosch, where I had, a diverse group of friends and people I worked with, and just seeing different situations and living through that. There's multiple situations in the past. I've only been working for 3 years professionally, but there's multiple situations where I've been in where I could draw from that experience I've had earlier in life. And again, like I said, it comes back to having the courage to make the right decision. It's not always easy. Making the right decision most times is actually probably the difficult thing to do. And, that's where ethics comes in as well. But I think coming back to that, what I had to learn post varsity again is really, again, having humility in order to start from the bottom again. Because, you've learned a lot and you've had all these successes, but just starting from the bottom again, being able to learn. And I think that's what your 20s, people in their 20s listening to this podcast, that's what your 20s are for. It's for learning. There's stages in life, and I think there's a stage for learning and there's a stage for implementation. I think a lot of these things work hand in hand. but I think my focus has been to learn as much as possible. And also, those working in a professional environment, you'll know that the more you contribute towards a team, the more your managers or your supervisors will actually give you work to learn more. So it's, working more, doing more is actually an incentive to learn more. And I think having a curious mind, I think that's one of my main aspects I would probably attribute to being where I am today, is having a curious mind and always wanting to learn more, or having a certain opinion, hearing someone else having a different opinion, and really trying to understand why that person thinks differently from myself. What am I maybe missing in the situation? And I think, long answer, but I think that's what it's taught me. And yeah.
Well, I mean, that would explain a lot of things, right? It would explain why.
What does that mean?
So to our viewers, Johan obviously did both his accounting degree and his accounting honors degree with all these leadership roles simultaneously, while also juggling a sporting background, keeping himself fit, and keeping the balanced life in other areas and fields of his interest. Johan is also a member of the Golden Key Society and was involved at events and functions. And throughout Stellenbosch, where there were other societies, Johan was always there. But in his professional capacity as well, when he went and did articles, and while he's still in articles, he decided to pursue the CFA designation on top of preparing for his Chartered Accountancy Board exams. Now, to anyone who is on the CA path, you know that articles plus board exams is a very tough situation. Johan decided to also take up the CFA journey and write and come in the top 10% in his Board 1 exam for CFA. So later this year, he'll write CFA 2. So with all that, Johan, you've got an intense energy and, like you said, a continuous process for learning and improvement. How do you fit all of that in your 24 hours of the day? How do you fit in your work, plus your studies, plus your training, plus your social obligations, family, relationships? How do you fit all that in the game of life and in these 24 hours?
So the blunt answer, being friends with Kamir.
Thank you. You're very kind.
No. To be honest, to the listeners again, the most efficient person I've ever met in my entire life, and I've met a lot of people, and even a lot of successful people, much older than I am, but I've never ever met someone more efficient than the person I'm talking with today, Kamir. But no, all jokes aside, to be honest, Kamir, actually what happened was, during hard lockdown, I was always going to pursue CFA, but it was, further plans in my career, for the future. But I think, a lot of people could attest that lockdown enabled us to have a bit more time on your hands, as spending less time in traffic, those working a professional job, being more at home. I was finding myself just sitting at home. Actually, I was exercising way more that time. Kamir was doing my program to run a marathon, which never happened, but hopefully this year. And then I just asked myself, with all this extra half an hours, or I save not driving in traffic, what's something I can do more? And I just thought, why not actually move forward these plans of mine I had in the future, and why not start now? And I think that was the best decision I could ever have made, because it's a very tough course. So actually, last year I started with doing it simultaneously with board exam 2. And luckily both were successful. But I'll tell you, it's not honest. And I think it all comes back to time management, Kamir. That's the number one key. And I think the one course they never teach you at university, but it's how to manage your time. And I've had this conversation with multiple people in my life, people who are successful, who say the same thing. If you can learn to manage your time successfully early on, that will probably also be one of the biggest contributing factors or tools. I would say it's a tool to get you where you want to be. So for instance, I mean, just being short, I think sleep is important. Always getting your 8 hours or whatever most efficient for yourself. I don't believe in sleeping only 4 hours. If you can help it, obviously here and there you have to put an all-nighter if the occasion demands it. But I think and planning your days in advance, your weeks in advance. Commit. You actually helped me a couple of years ago when I asked you about all these things. You showed me your roster and your weekly plan, and I still use that today.
Yes.
Where every day in the morning when I wake up, I know what I'm going to do. Wake up, do my jog, read my Bible, pray, and that sets me for the day. That sets the tone. I don't always get it right. Sometimes, just life throws its curveballs, or you work overtime. In the auditing environment, you work super long hours, and it's not always possible. But as far as possible, keep certain routines. I call it the golden hours, the hour before the sunrise and the hour after the sunset. It's called the golden hours. And what are you doing during those hours? What are you reading? What are you listening to? And what are you doing? I think those are for me, the two most important parts of the day. Because firstly, in the morning before I wake, or when you wake up, it really sets the tone for what you're going to do that day. And I think, keep things simple. Maybe have 3 goals. What do you want to do within that day? If it's in an audit environment, what these type of work papers I want to get done, or this or that. What do you want to do in that day? And then at night, maybe reflect a bit, or just spend some time outdoors, or go and exercise, and just think back of what worked today and what not, and just have fun as well, because it's very important to have fun. I think I wouldn't have been able to do all these things all at once if I didn't have fun. And for me, exercise is fun. You asked me, so I have a girlfriend who's also who's in the medical profession, and I can tell you she's just as busy as I am, and we work efficiently. Sometimes we just hit each other up and say, do you have an hour or to go and exercise after work? Or and that would be our time exercising as well as spending time together. And I think for people working long hours, heavy hours, you really need to be creative in terms of how can you do all those things at once. And but again, you helped me a lot. I think you recently wrote a book, which I also read, and you gave some seriously good tips in there. So I think for anyone listening to this, you could really probably do yourself good if you bought that book and honestly learn from the best. How someone really manages the time efficiently. And I think, Kamir, hopefully in one of your podcasts you give listeners a lecture on really how to do that. But I think there's nothing I can tell you about time management that I know.
Well, that was mainly a question aimed at yourself, Johan, but it turned into a flattery session there. I mean, look, I didn't pay. I'm extremely humbled and really grateful for your compliments, honestly. And to everyone watching, I did not pay Johan to promote my book. He just recommended it out of his own generosity. So I am grateful for that as well. I mean, I really do, value your insights and all the tips you said there, exactly, especially the efficiency of your time. You've only got so many seconds in the day, but you've got to make every second count. You've got to use it as efficiently as possible. And like you said, combining certain activities, like you said, when you're going for a jog, you go with your girlfriend, so you're exercising, plus you're spending time together, plus you're seeing places, so you're adventuring as well. So you're sort of doing 3 things at once, and that's sort of how I also try and operate. You do a few things at once, so that you get maximum value for it, instead of otherwise, the hours just drag, and then you sort of lose control of the daily commitments. And I really didn't, like you said, have fun at the end. I think especially
just to
Yes,
before I get into trouble, when I do that job, my number one priority is actually my girlfriend. Exercising second. Women, they also always need to be your first priority. Whenever so I wouldn't necessarily say it's always good to multitask if you want to build a romantic relationship, but if you lead very busy lives, that's one of the creative ways you can spend more time together. So just a heads up, and maybe just keeping myself out of trouble as well.
Yeah, you call it your running date. You make it a date, and then you go for a jog.
Exactly.
Exactly. No, that's perfectly acceptable, right? No, that was brilliant, Johan. That was really brilliant. In fact, the next question, because you were putting so much wisdom out there for us, would be, what were the 3 biggest life lessons you've learned on this journey that you could share with us, as well as use to inspire someone who is sort of walking in the same path or a very similar path as you, and has been inspired by your story today?
I think, maybe to keep it more simple, maybe I'll mention the one thing: know yourself. I think that's so important, Kamir, knowing yourself. I'll give you an example, and this is especially for people who are on the path of doing something great or wanting to achieve more, is really knowing yourself well. What's your limits, and working hard and working a lot. I mean, I've had a stage where I actually did reach burnout, and I think that helped me really understand where my limits are, and where you need to stop, and actually what's acceptable and what's not, and what you can do and what you can't do, what you are able to do. And I think, the better you know yourself, the earlier in your life you get to really know yourself, that's going to be probably the most important thing going forward in your life. It will determine who you choose as a partner afterwards, because if you know yourself better, you know who to choose better. If you know yourself better, you will know what career path to choose. If you know yourself better, you'll know what kind of exercise you like, or what books you like to read, or what kind of series you like to read. And just traveling as well, for me, that's also been, like, for instance, a big thing, and I've always enjoyed that. And COVID stopped that for a while, and this year again, for the first time, I went overseas again. But that's my kind of breakaway, going away for maybe, say, a week, and really decompressing, doing absolutely nothing, just rejuvenating, because you have to do that every now and then. I think for everyone wanting to become successful, it's good to work those hours, it's good to put in that time, but have times throughout the year where you can go and just decompress, where you don't have to actually wake up early and exercise, or have a set plan and have to do everything according to a certain plan. There's people who might differ from my opinion, but I think you need to maybe at least once or twice a year, just have that period where you can just go and decompress. And again, you'll know what's best for you. Some people like doing it for a long period, some people like doing it for shorter periods, but the more regular interval. But I think that's important. And I think maybe it's more than one I've given you, but also who you spend your time with. And that's also important. The times, especially in my professional career, I've been in a lot of different rotations throughout our business. And the times where I've really enjoyed my life the most was probably not when, depending on the work I did, but it was who I did it with. I had a coffee with one of my ex-colleagues on Friday, and we spoke about this and just how much we missed working with each other. If you can spend more time with people who are like-minded in a way, who wants to achieve more, and who really has that drive for life, who really wants to get things done, I think the more you spend your time with those type of people that you really enjoy life with, the happier you will be, and necessarily the more successful you'll probably be as well.
Wow. Johan, that was amazing. Honestly, um, yeah, it was. I've really enjoyed this. I really honestly have, because you are 100% right. The first step to being a high performer is being extremely self-aware, and then staying true to that, staying true to your core values. And you mentioned earlier on acting with ethics and integrity, and just knowing that you're on the path that's best for yourself, learning from others, taking in the right people, because they will give you the right energy to form synergy, and together you guys will then move towards your goals, and in turn you'll be good, you'll feel good, you would have helped someone else on their journey, you would have learned from mentors, plus you'll be in a position to give back. So it's like a brilliant circle,
Full
and it
circle, yeah.
all exactly, and it all starts by you being self-aware, and then, as you said, the success follows. It's been honestly a pleasure having you on the show. I really thank you for your time, Johan. It's been amazing just speaking to you, and hearing your story, and hearing your perspective on life.
Yeah,
To all the viewers,
hopefully we get to do
yes,
a running event again soon.
of course, of course. We'll get you in shape again for your 42K, and up and running for it. So yeah, no, we'll definitely make a plan with that. To all our viewers, I will add Johan's description and his social media handles in the description box below, so that you can connect with him if you've been inspired, and you can follow his journey. Thank you to all our viewers for your time. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment on the videos, and stay tuned for more episodes where we showcase other high performers living their exceptional lives. Until next time, cheers.